Hey guys, welcome back. My name's Gareth, and in this video we are going to build the fantastic team associated TC8. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video.
Okay, so welcome to bag 4. In bag 4 we build the top upper arms, we build the steering links, the servo mount. There's a few other bits in this bag, anti-roll bar drop links. There's a number of spare eyelets. They come in a short and a long configuration. So yeah, you get tons of eyelets on this sprue here. Yeah, so one of the things I missed to get out was the top upper arms. They're not actually on the table at the moment, they're on the floor. But yeah, we'll get those back in a second. The book recommends using black grease on the threads. This is just to help the threads move once they're installed. The plastic on the metal can get quite tight over time. It is cutting into the threads as you screw it in there, so yeah, it is tight in the plastic, but adding a little bit of black grease, or in my case I'm using the 1-Up Blue, just lubricates the threads so that if you come to adjust them later in down the line, it's not going to pop that eyelet off the ball stud, and it should make adjusting the car a lot smoother and easier. The kit goes with 4 degrees of front caster. The 4 degree one has got the hole in it for the body mount support. The 2 and the 0, which I guess are mainly going to be used on the rear, they don't have that hole that you can see there. If you check out a video which I'm going to link in the top corner now, you'll see some 1-Up Racing body support kind of screws, but they've got round and smooth heads that can screw directly into those, and those are what I've got fitted on the car at the moment. They just make sure that when the front wheel's loaded up through corners, it just lifts the shell off the ground slightly, so you don't end up with your shell dragging on the floor, which is never a good thing. I tend to cut all these parts off with just the flush cuts, which is the same cut as I use for trimming spikes off the off-road tyres. It gives a kind of a clean cut when it can get in there on a flat surface. You'd have seen in the previous episode where I was just tidying up the cut marks, just so that they were smooth, but yeah, those pliers do a pretty decent job. So yeah, this part's pretty self-explanatory. It does say in the manual that there's a figure of the amount of turnbuckle that you can see once you've got them screwed in. We always recommend to pop the car onto a setup station as soon as you're ready to hit the track, just to confirm you have got the adjustments and the angles and the degrees that you want in the car. But yeah, the manual gives you a figure. It seems I completely ignore this figure, or I get it 1 millimeter out. Later in the video you'll see I'll get that wrong, so I would have ended up with a ton of camber on the front there, but yeah, it's all gone through a setup station now, so it'll be where it's supposed to be. So yeah, 8.2 there, and then I come and set the so that's almost 8.2 there, and I go and turn it 2 or 3 times more and make it 7.2, so I don't know where my mind was at when I built the car. But yeah, you can see the 0, the 2 and the 4 with the top arms there. You can fit the more modern, I guess, popular double turnbuckle design. That'll go straight from another car, I guess MI9, X4, Automatics, any of those other cars that come with those double turnbuckle systems. And then you'll have the sort of infinite adjustment that those offer you. But yeah, it is a bit more fiddly to do. These pliers here that I'm using are an old set of hoodie ones. There is an associated factory team option of pliers. Part number 1681. They're exactly the same pliers as these ones are, and they just help you get those ball studs pop straight in. You can see it's just pop the ball stud into the pliers and then just push the top arm down on them. So they're really easy to fit there. And then it's just a case of repeating for the other side, really. Sped the video up, there's no point in running this one in real time, but yeah, it's just a case of building up another side for the front there with the 4-degree caster top arms fitted. Again, there's a factory team option. It's a carbon version of the arms. It's the same as the lower arms where they do them in a harder material. And there's a titanium option for the turnbuckles as well if you wanted to go for that, or the titanium ball studs as well. You can see here that I've made a little mistake and popped the ball studs in on the same side as the first one, but with these pliers they've got, there you go, there's the factory team options. The pliers have a little peg, so you can pop the ball studs in and out really easy, and then just pop it in the other side and it'll push that ball stud back in. You have to be a bit careful when you're popping them in case you go straight through and fire the ball stud straight out the other side, which is never a good thing, but yeah, it's pretty easy to use. Yeah, I'll just pop that straight through in a second, and then when it comes to that one back out, there we go, just pop straight out. So yeah, totally recommend one of these shock shaft multi-tools. Great for holding your shock shafts to do up the plastic eyelets on the bottom of those as well. So yeah, the grey eyelets on the end, they do have orientation. There's like a shiny side and a matte side, so the shiny side goes down. It'd be pretty tricky to get them on the wrong way, but yeah. Okay, so next part is to get them fitted to the car. I believe the kit setup on the roll centre shims is 2mm on the inside. That'll give you a fairly low front roll centre with 2mm there. If you reduce those washers or take them out, that'll raise the roll centre, make the front a little bit more immediate, give you a bit more initial turn in. And the same with if you were to increase the ball stud washers there, ball stud shims. That will make the front end turn in a little bit more lazier, give you a little bit more overall grip, but make the car a little bit easier to drive as well if you were to increase those shims. Again, it's metal and metal, so if you do fancy making the car a little bit more sturdier, just a tiny drop of thread lock will do wonders, just to hold those upper ball studs in. I don't think I've ever had any of those work out. In this step I've just applying a little bit of the 1-Up Racing gold grease, which is an anti-wear grease. Just put it on the bone there, just where it meets the outdrive, just so it can move a little bit more freely, and hopefully it'll last a bit longer. It won't start ovaling out the outdrives as I've seen many on the off-road cars, but yeah, just a little bit of lubrication between there. It doesn't have the tiny bearings that a lot of cars come with at the moment. It's just your traditional dog bone into your outdrive, and then it's just the same for the other side. So yeah, 2mm washers under there, pop that down, a little bit of grease, and that's the front end starting to look a lot like a car now. And double check that everything moves freely. We don't want any binding or anything like that in the suspension. That wouldn't really do much for you on the track if you've got one side binding and one side not. But again, with building up the rear arms, just a little bit of grease on those threads will help them move in the future. And then we go on with the 0 arms on the back for the rear. I had been running the 2 arms, so it will be a slightly shorter wheelbase. I fitted those when I ran the car in Stoke. I'll put the video just above now. And then I left the 2 arms on the back for Louth, which was the following week, which seemed to go okay. but when I went back to ETS carpet, I refitted the zero arms, just to lengthen the wheelbase, just to gain a little bit more stability. The car seems plenty of steering on the ETS carpet, so yeah, back to the zeros. Again, there you can see there's factory team option for titanium ball studs with the part number and everything. Rear goes together exactly the same as the front, but runs a 1mm ball stud, so the rear will have a slightly higher roll centre. On the upper arms there, you'll also remember that when we fitted the ball studs to the underside of the wishbones, that the rear had a 2mm and the front had a 1mm, so yeah, definitely a lower roll centre setup in the kit with the fronts compared to the rears there. So yeah, that's the rear taking shape nicely now, and we'll move on to putting the servo mount and the steering linkages together. One of the issues that seems quite common around Facebook and the groups with the servo and the bell crank mount is that it's only got one locating peg, which is between the two screws. Because the chassis is 1.5mm, the holes in the chassis are actually bigger than they traditionally would be. You'd normally have a 3mm hole going through the chassis for an M3 screw, and then the screws wouldn't wobble around too much. But because we've got a 1.5mm chassis, the countersink is partly in the servo mount, again with the motor mount and the bulkheads. They've got the countersink works up into the item that's above it. Because of this, if those screws, they do have the option to move slightly. You may have heard me in a previous video talking about the servo moving. Unfortunately, because we've only got one locating peg in the servo mount, it does allow it to pivot on that one peg. We really could have done with a second peg in there just to really hold it still. I know some of the other guys have said I'll put a bit of double-sided tape underneath it between the servo and the chassis, and that should stop the servo moving. I'm not really sure if that would affect flex or anything like that, but I haven't done that. I've drilled the servo mount out slightly, so hopefully the screws will bite a little bit more into the chassis. So what I've done is, where you've got the countersink building up into that servo mount there, it takes away a bit of that countersink so that the screws are really pulling on the chassis and not relying on the servo mount. What I've done there with a small shim is just put the shim on so that it lifts the bearing slightly up, and then use the screw just to pull it down onto the bearings, and then that just seats the bearings into the steering bell crank just a tiny little bit more, but make sure that they are free, just like that. This steering's moving nice and free. Make sure you don't get any of that thread lock into the bearings, otherwise it won't be free for long. But yeah, that's pretty straightforward how that servo is going together now. And then we've got the pivot balls, which the steering arm's attached directly to. You can change the washers here if you wanted to adjust the ball, the bump steer. Although this is easier done on the other end of the arm, where you've got the ball stud into the steering arm. So yeah, I'm not adding any washers there. It would have been a nice feature if we had some sort of insert that went there that you could move it backwards and forwards to change the Ackerman, but unfortunately they've decided to go with changing the steering arms. So yeah, next on to adding a ball stud for the servo link turnbuckle to attach to. Drop of thread lock is advised on there. It's never going to come out. I don't think you'll ever be changing that 2mm washer once it's in the car. I run the X-ray servo saver on mine rather than the supplied servo horn. I found if you don't run a servo saver, the servos are so strong now you end up bending things in the car rather than the servo saver just taking a little brunt of the hit. I'm sure if the pro drivers that don't hit anything, they're all saying it takes away the direct steering and stuff like that, but I found that the servo saver works wonders for me. So That's why I've been running a servo saver. Next step here is just to build the short link that goes between the steering bell crank and the on the servo horn or the servo saver. Pretty straightforward when it comes to building turnbuckles. It's the bane of my life. I hate building turnbuckles. Once they're built though, that's it. You don't have to worry about them for any longer unless one breaks in the future. But yeah, a little bit of a pain to build on that first initial build of a kit, but yeah, once they're done, they're done. As you can see in the manual there, Team Associated also do aluminium clamping horns in your traditional 25 teeth for your Savox, your Futaba, and Reedy servos. I think they do the 23 teeth versions. If you've got a Sanwa or KO, I think they still use the 23 teeth splines, but yeah, they do an aluminium version if you wanted to go with aluminium. So here I'm just getting the length right. It says about 9mm. Really, that adjusting the length on that one's only really for getting your centre trim if you've gone too far over, rather than move the servo over a spline. You can just shorten or lengthen that link. Ideally you should move the servo over, but yeah, you can adjust that link just to get it a little bit further over if you need to. And here I am just building up the rear links. These are for the toe, adjusting the toe. If you shorten those, you'll gain more rear toe, and lengthen them, you'll have less. And they are just attached between the bulkhead and the rear arms that are on the hubs there. Again, they say 19mm on there. I think mine are coming up about 20, but we'll adjust all those settings to where I like to run them, which is 2 degrees on the rear for running indoor on carpet. And here we are building up the front ones. The front ones say to fit the servo first in the book, but it also says to attach a servo to the mount back then in the manual, but I'm building the car up completely without any electrics in it, so I'll be removing the servo mount and steering bell crank later to fit my electrics. But here I am just bolting it in roughly so we can get everything in the right place. So these are the 2 screws that the servo can twist on. It has that locating pin in the middle, but yeah, really could have done with a second pin. There's also another hole which is countersunk, which is about 1 inch further back towards the motor mount. So I mean, if they were to release a new servo mount which was longer with an extra thread hole that further back, that will most likely cure the problem or severely limit its effect. But yeah, definitely another pin would have been a godsend when it comes to the servo moving. But that's pretty much bag 4 over and done with. Looks like bag 5 is going to be a short one, as all we fit in bag 5 is the roll bars, but we'll have a little talk about those. So thanks for joining me in this video. If you could spare a like for this video, that would go a long way to helping my channel, and subscriptions as well. Really make my day. But yeah, thanks for joining me, and we'll look forward to the next one.